Welcome to Crackers and Milk. This is your host, David. I am joined by Michael and Jacob.
Sorry. You were already halfway through my name.
I know.
He just remembered that last time he did Jake
And this is my movie.
It is.
It's true.
But I introduced... Oh, yeah, that's true. Maybe we should try and do... So, whoever movie it is, they should introduce the podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Maybe next time we will.
Here,
that would be a good idea.
Let's do a test. Hey, everybody. Nope. See, James already better at it.
You just made yourself fail, didn't you?
Here, let me do it like Dave. Hey, everybody. Glad you're listening to us this wonderful day, night, whatever you're listening to us. I'm Mike, not your host, and I'm joined here with Dave.
Our host.
Jake. Yes, our host. He's got that smooth vibe when he talks. Maybe I'll talk like that through Hitch.
Sound like a dummy. But anyways, today our movie is Hitch.
Yep, 2005.
2005, Will Smith and Eva Mendes. Eva. And Jake has our synopsis.
Dating coach Alex Hitchens mentors a bumbling client, Albert, played by Kevin James, who hopes to win the heart of the glamorous Allegra Cole. While Albert makes progress, Hitchens faces his own romantic setbacks when proven techniques fail to work on Sara Melas, a tabloid reporter digging for dirt on Allegra Cole's love life. When Sara discovers Hitchens' connection to Albert, now Allegra's boyfriend, it threatens to destroy both relationships. Boom, 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 boom.
And his career.
Yes.
Poor guy.
So, with this movie, this is Jacob's movie.
Yes.
So, he has some words to say about it, why he couldn't live without it.
So, 2005. Let me take you back then. I was a young 20-year-old in my mid-20s. Didn't really think a lot about dating. I had gotten out of a really bad relationship, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Yeah. And there's some things in pop culture that kind of changed how I thought about things. There was an episode of a TV show which made me break up with that girlfriend. This was a movie that made me start thinking about how I should date and how I should go out and get myself. And his techniques work. I know at the end of the movie he says, basic techniques, there are none.
Oh, there are.
Oh, there are. Yeah. There are. Yes. So, yes. I have Hitch to thank for me being brave enough to ask my wife, Allison, out when we were young and not married yet.
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome.
What was the technique? Let's hear one.
No, I just asked her out.
Oh. You had the confidence,
yeah.
Like he says in there. You got to have confidence. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
The chemistry and the character development of Will Smith and Eva Mendes. What did you guys think of that?
Oh, they were so funny together. So funny together.
Yeah.
And then also the chemistry between Kevin James and
Will.
No,
and
Allegra
Cole. Yeah.
Well, see, that's
Albert and Allegra.
Yeah.
Chemistry, though. I even still think with Albert and Hitch, that chemistry is great.
Yes, it is.
Just a lot of chemistry going on in that. Yeah. Not just the guy and girl, but man, Hitch and because the whole movie, it's him teaching him how to do.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
And okay, before this, I'm just want to ask, Kings and Queens. Did Kings and Queens come out before this, and then they got Kevin James for this? Because I'm just bringing this up because this is where I really noticed Kevin James in this one.
The King of Queens was before this movie.
Before, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like they saw that he could do this.
Well,
type of role.
He was a reoccurring character on Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
And it spinned off into his own.
Everybody. or
King of
Kings and
Queens.
Queens.
Yeah.
King of Queens.
Kings of Queens.
King.
of Queens.
There you
Sorry,
go.
sorry.
Of the Queens.
But because of doing that, they said, okay, he'll probably do really good with Hitch. And see, to me, that's where I, as a person, became more of a fan of Kevin James.
Yeah.
Because of this movie. Because to me, it put him more on the map of, this dude's pretty funny.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
When we're first introduced to him,
Yeah.
and he spills the drink and
And
gets
they
the
do-
mustard.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
So fun. So funny.
Yeah, great. Yep.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you guys with the chemistry of Kevin James and Allegra. That's really great chemistry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Will Smith and Eva, great. Eva, great. And then Kevin and Will. Like,
Yeah.
those three relationships were wonderful. And that's what made the movie much more enjoyable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did work well together. It was just like, oh yeah, it's believable. Will and Eva, whatever.
Yeah, I would say Eva,
Mendes does a really good job. Like, it's believable that those two could get together. And
Yep.
then Allegra and Kevin James.
Albert, just call him by the
Albert.
character's name.
It's
Albert-
funny. He's funny, and like where she's awkward and she has these human flaws that she feels that she has
Yeah.
these flaws, but he says, "Well, don't be ashamed of it." Kind of like because he's not ashamed of these flaws that he has, or as well like the uncomfortableness of him. But he also does like funny lines where her friends are talking.
Yeah.
Like, and says, "Oh, this is terrible. This is terrible." And he's like, "What do you guys think of the Jets football stadium?" Terrible, right? Think about it. And then he just walks away, and you're like, "That's a good line." That, like, you know, those sorts of things. That chemistry. And then with Will, oh man, like the dance chemistry
Oh, I
right
know.
there. That dance.
Those are
He's
the
like,
moves that I need.
So funny.
You're right
So,
here.
yeah.
Right here.
Right here.
Don't bite your lip.
Well, you were just earlier saying believable. Yes.
Yeah.
Will and Eva.
Mhm.
Hitch.
Hitch and Sarah.
Hitch and Sarah.
Believable.
Believable. Now, but you never said anything about Albert and Allegra. Not believable, but that's the premise of the movie.
Yeah, where
Is
it
that
shouldn't be.
as long as
believable.
you work those steps,
Yeah.
you can get any woman in 3 dates, like Hitch says.
But see, that's the thing too, is he has these steps and he has these principles, and then when they sit down and talk, Allegra and him, and she's like, "Well, why did you did your research good, the whistling."
Right.
And he's like, "What?
I didn't
That's
do
not
that."
me."
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
oh,
and when he
this
spilled
and this and
Albert
this,
on
yeah.
when he spilled mustard on his shirt to make me feel
Phil-
less like a dork.
Right.
That's all.
That's all Albert.
That's got Albert written all over it.
And then
But-
she's like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "Nothing."
He put the pen in the pocket.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that part.
Because he was supposed to make a scene, right, in the conference room, and he quit his job, and he's like, I didn't tell you to quit your job.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
yeah.
But so yeah, I don't think it is believable because the movie makes you not want to believe it, but
Right.
because of what he does, his character, it's sincere. So then it becomes believable that she would fall for him because of these
Well-
incidences in her life that helped. Yeah,
You think about, and over the first little bit when he's talking about the principles, and it shows
It shows the other couples.
yeah.
all three of them, you could tell when the women fell in love with the guy
Yep.
when they did something that was against
Against
what
the
he
rule.
was saying.
Yep.
The black couple when he's being all cool to the ice cream man and then
And
he
he
falls.
falls.
Yep.
The couple in the photo booth, and he's
So, and he's the same. And he's like, just so, in case you didn't go to high school, hitting is good.
hitting is good. That was one of my favorite lines. I love that. Oh, so
So
good.
it shows that the principles are there, But they're there to open the door.
Yeah. Because the principle that Albert was supposed to just gain her attention.
Right.
Right? He did that. He went to extreme, but he did it, and then she noticed him, and that was the only thing that you can say that Will Smith helped him out with.
That's what
everything else was just something that he did on his own. That was against what Will Smith would have told him. Because the whole dancing thing where Will Smith's like, okay, you stay here, and then like he starts
she
dancing.
She turns around and he's...
Yeah.
I love that.
Just that sort of stuff. Where
and she even says, and you told him to dance like a dork.
Yeah.
I love the inhaler part too.
Yeah, when he chucks it. Yes.
He's like, he did not do that.
Well, so even with the chemistry of with Will and Kevin when they're at the doorstep learning how to kiss.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Yes.
Okay, bring it up. Bring it up.
What else? So we talked about chemistry and character development. Like, what do you think we've covered? What spoke to you about this, about the movie?
So, yes, for the most part, but I have to tell a funny story about my brother-in-law. He got back from his mission, and his sisters wanted to show him this movie, and he would not watch it as his first movie back from his mission.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I guess he wanted to see Star Wars, but
well, he's got his priorities right?
Yeah. And I remember it was me, you, Steve, and Josh when saw this opening night. And when the beginning of the movie, when it's basic principles, Steve leans over, pats me, and says, "Pay attention." So that's not parts in the movie but that's parts of surrounding the movie that I love.
Well, but like with those sorts of things, it's that spoke to you because he said this, Steve said this, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you pay attention even more, because and then it's a funny memory or it's a wonderful memory, and that's what makes it more why you put it on this list. One other reason why you put it on this list besides, oh, this is why I liked it.
Yeah. Favorite parts, Mike? You've got something.
Oh yeah, my favorite part. So when I first watched it. The Ellis Island, when he takes her out to Ellis Island,
Yes.
I mean, when he kicks her in the face.
Yes, when he kicks her.
Yes, great. And it was crazy. Me and Sheena were rewatching it a couple days ago. And when it happened, me and her just started laughing so hard. I was like, why are we laughing so hard? She's like, because it looks so fake. Because it kind of looks fake, but it is so funny. It's just so good.
I think, like, the kick... It does look fake, but like him running into it, like how like the dorky way he ran into it, it's like, oh, that's not what he would do, but it's funny.
Yeah,
that he did it. Yeah.
But leading the best part for me when I first saw it was when she's in there and he shows her the picture or the
and it's such a beautiful moment.
Yeah,
though.
and the
so
music's
beautiful,
swelling.
So great.
And he's smiling at the security guard. The security guard's smiling, and then.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw it, I started crying too because I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's seeing this. It's her ancestor." So I am crying. I'm like, "Oh, this is," and then I hear that. I'm like, "What the freak just happened?" It's so good.
So
when
funny.
she takes off and they're just looking at each other, I'm like, "Holy crap!" It is. I think that's one of the best tricky. Funny things in the movie I've ever seen because it's so sincere.
And then like Will Smith goes like, I thought of that like playing differently. In my
I saw that going differently in my mind. But
so
even at the end of it, when he puts her in a cab, and his shirt gets caught,
like he is so flustered because he is placed that the movie has placed him as like he's a cool guy.
Yes.
Yep.
He doesn't make mistakes, and the first interaction that they have with each other is actually a really smooth.
Yes, very smooth.
So it's like, oh, he knows how to play.
Yeah.
But then
and
they
how
get
he
together.
asks her out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's like it's cool. He's a cool guy. But then like you get to the date and it's like, oh my gosh, you're just like all of us.
You're just like the rest of us. It
You
all falls
cannot go on
apart.
a date without something going wrong.
Yeah. And then the second date,
Is that the food?
the food.
Yeah.
With her boss.
Oh, I see what this is.
He's like, no, you think because I'm in an awkward situation,
Right.
my heart rate's going up. No.
No,
I think it's
you're-
food allergies.
It's like, oh, and he's like, oh, everything's okay. And then they get to the drugs.
I love it.
And he looks in the mirror and he goes over.
And he has to put it in the side of his mouth. It's so good.
So funny. Oh.
Which actually, then that next scene leads up to where he's susceptible, right? And she's the power.
Yes.
She can ask him questions.
And
So good.
And I'm never going to tell. And then he starts. And Albert loves her.
And then, like,
And when he's lying on the couch, that's when she falls in love with him.
yeah. And you could tell that. You could tell, like, because then the next morning, like, he's gone, and she's like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And she starts yelling at herself, and then he just is like, hey, you want any coffee? And she's like, oh, yeah.
And then he
Like,
turns around and she's mirror fixes her
Yep.
hair.
Like a lot, yep. Yep.
And the shirt, she had the shirt there.
Didn't he say something like we should burn that because it's not good luck or something? For
Well,
it?
that's the third date.
Yeah, that's the third thing, yeah. Okay, so then other favorite parts about this movie, or do you think we covered all of our favorite parts about this movie?
The speed dating.
Oh my,
I love that speed dating scene.
yeah.
Explain.
Oh, just
The whole scene?
when he goes to confront her.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good. Yep.
And then like how he goes and talks to her friend because they have to move, so he moves to her friend and he just starts talking to her. Then they interrupt each other, and then at the end of the friend in where they're saying, "Oh, do you believe that guy?" Like,
The friend says,
yeah,
yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What?"
What? Yep.
yeah.
And then she talks to her boss. I think one of the parts of where Sarah talks to her boss, and her boss says, "Well, she wasn't." His wife said, "Well, you're something covering." And he's like, "Well, yeah, he has a lot to cover." And he goes, "She wasn't talking about him. She was talking about
That was
you."
before she released the story.
yeah.
Before the story, and then the newspaper guy is like, "Hey, you." And Albert goes crazy, starts ripping up his stamp,
Right.
gets arrested. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I gotta go," as he's getting handcuffed.
Yep.
But yeah, the speed dating when
Sweet dating.
all the awkward characters that you see them all, and you're like, oh yeah, those are the kind of not that anybody who's ever been to a speed dating thing is weird or anything, but they played up the characters to be weird.
They definitely exaggerated it where
Yes,
there probably are some of those people, but there's not as much as we think they are.
Yeah. Does it ever occur to a woman that a guy might like to have a plan, because he's nervous?
Yeah.
He's not sure that he could just walk up to you and you'd respond if he said, "I like you. I like you. I like you." Yeah, it's true. You can't do that.
You can't do that. That's right.
Because I was talking to Olivia, and I don't know what you guys were like when you were dating, but when I was dating, in my 20s, I had like stories. I had a script just
Yeah.
to get somebody to start laughing, because that's, to me, is like when they start laughing, you can start.
Yeah.
You feel more relaxed. To me, I felt more relaxed after they started laughing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, yeah, I used to do that. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah.
But,
Oh. And like, I get the plan thing. Like, that's a great thing to have as a
so
plan.
actually, on my first date with Allison,
Yeah.
I remember just being really nervous.
Yeah.
And we were at Chili's eating, and I said, I'm just so nervous I can't eat. I just really like you.
Yeah.
And it worked out for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
But my absolute favorite part of this movie is the doorstep
Oh.
between Will Smith, Hitch, and Kevin James Albert.
Yep. Okay. Let's hear it. Love this part.
No, I said come 90 and then I'll come 10. You don't go the whole 100. My mouth was open, Albert.
Yes.
You over your eager son of a...
Oh, that whole scene.
I remember watching that.
Fiddle in the keys.
Yeah.
Watching that trailer.
Yeah.
And that part coming, it's like, oh, that funny part, and I'm happy they included it in the movie. That was...
Yes.
Yeah.
It was nice because I remember the trailer and everything they showed in the trailer, they showed in the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was the best, that was the funniest part there, too. And so, like, yeah. That's funny.
Even leading up to that doorstep part I love it when, he's pressing his lips together and getting closer, and Will's like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Yeah. You got to imagine that I am Allegra Cole. So good.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite lines in this movie, Mike?
Oh, okay, I got another one here. Let's see. We already mentioned one.
Yeah.
In case you didn't go to high school, hitting is a good thing. I love that because it's so true.
Yeah.
The introduction there. I don't think they're really me. He's talking about his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And Hitch says, "You" is a very fluid concept now.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have actually kind of a backstory. I think that's why I like this movie, because I had a Hitch in my life. Mm-hmm. His name was Paul, and he lived across the way from me at Turnberry. Oh, Turnberry. Yes. Love Turnberry. But Paul had all of these rules. Every time. He'd be like, okay, Mike, this is what we got to do. And he even, when I moved in, and I told him that, I want to start dating. And he was all confident. He's super handsome. He drives a BMW. I mean, this guy was the crap. Mm-hmm. And, him and his friend took me out to Nordstrom. We bought new clothes for me. I mean, I got everything. Hold on. And then he was like, okay, here's these rules, da-da-da-da-da-da. He was the Hitch in my life. So when that happened, I was very fluid at that time. I was just like,
he was a very fluid.
Whatever you think I need to do, and it was crazy. I grew facial hair.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it added 20 years to my life, it felt like, because girls were like, oh, you're handsome. And it was crazy because I'm wearing these new clothes. Yeah. And I'm not wearing my Spider-Man shirts, which still to this day Sheena hates. But I love those Spider-Man shirts.
Yes.
But I wore, nice clothes. And I was treated totally different. I was going on dates with girls, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this really works. There's something to growing up.
Yeah.
There's basic
rules,
yeah.
Yep, there's basic rules,
basic principles.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of it, yeah.
But that was it, that got my foot in the door, and then the poor girl got to know me.
Yeah. The sad thing is they get to know you, and they're like, oh. Cool.
That's one.
But you only have to get one to really like that part of you.
Yes. Yep. Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
Don't mess it up either.
Yes.
14 years strong this month.
Yes.
Yeah, you read that.
Okay. One dance, one look, one kiss. That's all we get, Albert. Just one shot to make the difference between happily ever after and he's just some guy went to something with once. Yes. Totally agree.
Yep.
Yes.
Totally agree.
We just get it one time.
Mm-hmm. And when he's explaining that too, he's telling them they have thought about this.
Yes.
They've been thinking about the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make sure this counts. Yep, it's so true.
Yeah.
So
I love this movie. Just love it.
It's amazing.
I have too many favorite lines in this to even name them all in this podcast.
Well, but this movie is, like you've said when we've talked off podcast and all that stuff, is that Hitch is like
it's
the
my
perfect
favorite
rom-com movie. Mm-hmm. And with 50 First Dates, that one that we have done already, that one's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, it's funny, but it's also insightful.
I think it's relatable too.
Relatable.
Very relatable.
it's just a little bit more than what 50 First Dates is. Like 50 First Dates, sure you can believe the premise, but you know that it's you just don't know. But with this one, you can believe the premise because everybody has had somebody take them aside and say, "Hey, look, let's clean you up. Let's do this. Let's do that. And let's make you better than like." There's something underneath. Let's get that something underneath out a little bit more than what it is.
Yes.
Yep.
And actually, I can see the basic principles in other movies.
Yeah.
Of what Hitch was talking about, the shock and awe.
Yeah.
I could see that in 50 First Dates. I could see that in Notting Hill. I could see that in all the other movies we've covered.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's great. Any other favorite lines?
Like I said, there's too many for me to name.
You?
Yeah, no. Just looking at some of the ones Jake has written down. I mean, because, we could go on and on.
When you're wondering what to say or how you look, just remember, she's already out with you. That means she said yes when she could have said no. That means she made a plan when she... yeah.
Well, yeah, and see, that to me, that's like... I had to learn that where, when you're dating, you're not very confident. But then when you adopt that mentality, where it's like, well, she could have told me no.
Yeah.
But she said yes. She thought, well, maybe there's something. Or
yes.
And then you get on the date, and then they could say, you know what?
Yeah, it's your job not to mess it up.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
So,
and a lot of times, guys messing up.
Great movie.
Great movie. Okay, recommendations.
Every year.
Every year?
Every year.
Every year?
Oh, yeah.
I would say every 2 to 3 for me.
All right.
I like it, but it's like...
Now that we found love, what are we gonna do?
That is a great line. Like,
hey, that's a good part. I love the ending when they're...
A couple questions, though.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Why was Casey there at the wedding? The friend.
Yeah. I don't know why. Why should... And why did that guy have it for her? The grandma or whatever.
Grandma, yeah.
Where
that was a setup, right?
Yeah.
That was the
shock and awe.
That was the shock and awe.
But that was the shock and awe for the grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why is the grandma
Because she
there?
was a date doctor for her day.
Yeah.
You didn't pick that up?
No.
Yeah. And then how... Because if his business is all by recommendation, who gave the card to Vance? Because we spent what, 10 minutes with the guy, and we knew how big of a jerk he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the one thing is, I was surprised that Will Smith saw him and went over and talked to him.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to me that Will Smith, because it set it up with Kevin James, where he came and watched him, looked at him, made sure that it was real, and then he met with him.
Yeah.
And so it was like, why didn't you vent this one a little bit further than what you did?
Yeah. So.
And the one with the guy to try and catch him.
Yeah.
It's like...
Who's only ever played gay guys.
Yeah. And, like, why didn't you vent him even more? Why didn't you vent more?
Yeah.
Because it seems like that's what he did, is he always vented these people where... The Vance guy, he said, well, because of guys like him, that's why I have a job. Had a job. And so it's like...
He was your source?
Yeah. To me, it is why didn't you think of that even more?
Yeah.
And even with that clue of when he said, oh, I was buying lingerie for my mother, and he's like, oh, for your girlfriend, for a girl.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, why wasn't that a clue for you to just
clue
leave?
Right there, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But But yes, every year. Yeah. Watch this movie. I love it. It's the best rom-com of all time.
So, thank you for joining us. Hope you have a good day. Please rate, subscribe, and leave a comment. We are on all podcasting formats. So enjoy and watch this movie for sure. Thank you and have a good day.